Cash flow versus net worth. Which one actually sets you free? Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, where we talk about building long-term wealth the smart way, and we also talk about something just as important, living a healthy life. Because at the end of the day, your health is your first wealth, and everything else gets built on top of that foundation. Now, before we dive in, just a quick, honest note. You do not have to hit that subscribe button unless you actually feel like this video gave you something real, some value, some new way of looking at money, business, or life. We are not here to chase numbers. We're here to help you think a little differently. So if this content ends up helping you, great. And if you want more of it later, the subscribe button will be right there waiting for you. All right, let's get into today's topic, because this is one of those questions that can genuinely change how you make decisions with your money. Here's the question to sit with for a second. What is more valuable? Owning a $2 million home that costs you $5,000 a month just to maintain, or receiving $500 a month after taxes, showing up in your account like clockwork? Now, most people would instinctively chase the first one, the big, beautiful home. But here's the twist. Only the second one is actually going to make you free. Cash flow and net worth tell two completely different stories about your money. They both give you insight into your financial health, but from two very different angles. And depending on where you are in life, one of them can matter way more than the other. So let's break this whole thing down. Chapter 1. What net worth really means. Let's start with net worth, because it is the number most people think about first when they hear the word wealthy. At its core, your net worth is simply the total value of everything you own minus everything you owe. It's a pretty simple equation. Net worth equals assets minus liabilities. Your assets are everything you own that holds value. Your cash, your stocks, your real estate, jewelry, a business you might own, even that one painting hanging in your living room that you are convinced is worth something someday. Your liabilities, on the other hand, are everything you owe to somebody else. Your mortgage, credit card balances, student loans, personal loans, all of it. So if you sold absolutely everything you own tomorrow and paid off every single debt you had, whatever is left over, that is your net worth. This number is a helpful snapshot of your overall financial position. It tells you where you currently stand. But here's the catch. It doesn't tell you how fast or how flexible you actually are with your money. Chapter 2. The generational wealth gap. Now, if you zoom out and look at this generationally, the picture gets pretty eye-opening. Baby boomers held around 21% of total American wealth by the time they hit age 35. Generation X had about 9% by that same age. And millennials, which is a huge chunk of the people watching content like this, owned just 6% of total wealth by that same age. So generation after generation, people are ending up with a lower net worth by the exact same age. And that is happening despite rising education levels, higher salaries on paper, and increased productivity across the American workforce. Younger generations are simply starting adulthood with far fewer assets behind them compared to their parents and grandparents. Chapter 3. Why most net worth only exists on paper. Here's where things get interesting though, because for roughly 80% of people, their entire net worth is really made up of just two things: the house they live in and their retirement accounts, like a pension or a 401k. And here's the problem with that. You cannot exactly sell your living room to cover this month's rent. And you cannot dip into your 401k without facing serious penalties unless you are already retired. This is where a more useful concept comes into play. Liquid net worth, meaning the actual money you can access, move, or use in the short term without taking a financial hit for touching it. Chapter 4. Two people, same net worth, two very different realities. Let us compare two people who technically have the exact same net worth on paper. Person A owns a $500,000 home and has $300,000 sitting in retirement savings. That adds up to $800,000 in net worth, which sounds pretty solid. The problem is, this person can only actually access that money if they sell their house or fully retire and start withdrawing from their retirement account. Now let's look at person B, who has $800,000 spread across index funds, a couple of rental properties, and cash reserves. Their money is actively working for them, and it's accessible whenever they need it. Same exact net worth on paper, but two completely different financial realities. Most Americans think they are building wealth the moment they buy a home, but honestly, in a lot of cases, what they are really building is a very expensive savings account that they cannot easily touch. Chapter 5. Net worth can absolutely go negative. Here is something that catches a lot of people off guard. Your net worth can absolutely go negative, and in fact, most people experience a negative net worth at some point early in life. Let's say you're 23 years old, you just graduated college, and you took out student loans to get there. You owe $40,000 in student debt, and you've got maybe $1,000 sitting in your checking account, with no other major assets to speak of. That puts your net worth at negative $39,000. Now, that doesn't mean you're failing at life. It just means your financial journey is currently front-loaded with debt. Honestly, this is incredibly common among high-earning professionals in America. Doctors, lawyers, engineers. A huge number of them start their careers deep in the negative before eventually climbing out. Chapter 6. When knowing your net worth actually helps you. So with all of that said, when does knowing your net worth actually become useful? Well, it's a great way to track your financial progress over time. If your net worth was $80,000 last year, and it is $100,000 this year, you are clearly moving in the right direction. If it is trending downward, that is a signal that something needs your attention. Knowing your net worth also helps you plan ahead. Can you afford to take on more debt right now? Are you over-leveraged in one single asset? Do you need to diversify your holdings a bit more? Think of your net worth kind of like your financial weight over time. It's a useful number to track, but it doesn't tell the whole story of your health. Chapter 7. What cash flow really is. If net worth shows how well you are doing over time, cash flow shows how well you are doing right now, in this very moment. So what exactly is cash flow? Essentially, cash flow is all of the money that moves through your life. It is the actual income you receive on a regular basis, minus your expenses. To put it simply, cash flow equals income minus expenses. It can come from your salary, dividends, rental income, royalties, side hustles, or really any source that regularly puts money into your account. Positive cash flow means you are earning more than you are spending, while negative cash flow means you are slowly bleeding money, even if your net worth still looks impressive on paper. Chapter 8. The paycheck-to-paycheck reality in America. Here's a stat that might genuinely surprise you. According to data from the Bank of America Institute, roughly 20% of American households live paycheck to paycheck, and that includes households earning over $150,000 a year. In plain terms, their income comes in and it goes right back out, with nothing left over at the end of the month. This is exactly how you end up with people living in million-dollar homes in places like California or Florida, who look incredibly wealthy from the outside, but are actually just one missed paycheck away from a full-blown financial crisis. Chapter 9. Why cash flow is the real key to freedom. What makes cash flow so powerful is that it gives you options, real options, like being able to work remotely from anywhere in the world, or run your own business without being tied down to one location. People love to talk about financial freedom as if it is just some magic number. They say things like, "Once I hit $1 million, I am free." But real freedom does not come from a specific number sitting in an account. It comes from the reliability of your income. If you are earning $5,000 a month in passive or semi-passive income, and you are spending less than that every month, you are technically, functionally, financially free, no matter what your total net worth says on paper. That is the real difference between wealth on paper and wealth that is actually in motion. In fact, most people who manage to retire early are not doing it by hoarding $10 million in net worth. They are doing it by covering their monthly living costs with predictable, recurring income, rental income, dividends, royalties, and similar income streams. The real takeaway here is simple. If your income covers your lifestyle without requiring your active time, you are functionally free, and predictability matters more than the raw dollar amount. This is exactly why businesses and serious investors chase recurring revenues so aggressively, because when income is predictable, you can actually plan around it, take smart risks, and build new things. But if your cash flow suddenly dries up, you are constantly playing defense, no matter how impressive your net worth looks on a spreadsheet. Chapter 10. The 5-step ladder to building real cash flow. So how does someone actually build a cash flow system that is reliable and scalable over time? There is a pretty clear ladder that most people climb to get there, and it breaks down into 5 steps. Step 1 is earning active income. This is the money you make by directly trading your time and effort for work, whether that's a job, a contract, freelancing, or selling a specific skill. This is how most people begin their financial journey, and honestly, It's also where a lot of people get stuck. They earn money, they spend it, and the cycle just repeats itself month after month. But real cash flow does not come from simply working harder. It comes from working smarter and widening the gap between what you earn and what you actually keep. Step 2 is increasing your margins. Your margin is whatever is left over after life gets paid for. The rent, the groceries, the subscriptions, the dinners out with friends. If your monthly income is $4,000 and you spend $3,500, your margin is $500, and that margin is your seed money, the dry powder you eventually use to build real freedom. There are only 2 ways to increase your margin: earn more or spend less. Most people naturally focus on earning more, which is fine, but without spending discipline, extra income just ends up scaling your lifestyle instead of your actual wealth. You go from a $30,000 life to a $60,000 life to a $120,000 life, and somehow you are still broke at every single income level. That's lifestyle inflation, and it's honestly the silent killer of financial freedom for so many hardworking Americans. But if you can grow your income while capping your lifestyle, you'll unlock real leverage, and that's when your margin finally turns into something genuinely useful: capital. Step 3 is reinvesting that capital into income-generating assets. This is where your real cash flow journey actually begins. Instead of letting your extra money just sit idle in a checking account, you put it to work. Maybe that means dividend-paying stocks, maybe it's a rental property, maybe it's building out a content channel, launching a small digital product, or even investing as a limited partner in somebody else's business. The goal here is recurring, somewhat predictable income that does not depend on you personally showing up every single day to earn it. Step 4 is systemizing that income. This is where you start removing yourself from the day-to-day equation entirely. Automating your investments, outsourcing management tasks, delegating operations to other people. If you own rental real estate, that might mean hiring a property manager. It might mean building a small team to handle production or advertising. If you are investing, it could mean setting up automatic contributions into dividend-paying ETFs. The more systemized your income becomes, the closer you get to true scalability, the kind where your personal time is no longer the bottleneck holding everything back. Step 5 is simply doing all of this for long enough until your income fully covers your monthly expenses. That is the exact moment cash flow transforms into real freedom. Your basic life, rent, food, bills, even a few nice luxuries, is already being paid for by the system you built. And at that point, work genuinely becomes optional, not mandatory. Chapter 11: Why traditional retirement is basically a myth now. Here is an uncomfortable truth. Traditional retirement, the way it was sold to older generations, is basically a myth at this point. For decades, retirement was marketed as some kind of finish line. You work for 40 years straight, save a portion of every single paycheck, buy a house, build up a retirement account, and by the time you hit age 65, you have got enough saved up to stop working entirely. But that entire model rested on one massive assumption: that your net worth would eventually grow large enough to carry you through the last 20 to 30 years of your life, without a regular paycheck coming in. And for most Americans today, that assumption simply does not hold up anymore. The numbers just do not add up. According to the Federal Reserve, the median retirement account balance for Americans between the ages of 55 and 64 is only around $185,000. For Americans between 35 and 44, it drops down to just $39,000. And shockingly, nearly half of all Americans aged 55 and older have saved absolutely nothing for retirement. And that is in the United States, a relatively high-income country by global standards. Meanwhile, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that the average retiree household spends around $52,000 a year. Do the math on that for a second. Even if you manage to save a full $500,000, that only covers about 10 years of retirement. And that's before you even factor in inflation, emergencies, or rising healthcare costs, which tend to hit hardest exactly when you need money the most. Chapter 12: Understanding your burn rate. So here's the real mindset shift that needs to happen. Retirement is not some kind of finish line you cross, where work magically stops and the money just figures itself out on its own. Retirement looks different for everybody today, and the concept that really matters here is your burn rate. Your burn rate is simply how much money it takes to maintain your current lifestyle for 30 days, and that number is genuinely the enemy of every single retiree. Because if your income stops coming in, but your expenses keep marching forward, you are slowly bleeding your net worth dry, month after month. Let's say your burn rate is $4,000 a month. If you have got $600,000 saved up, that gives you roughly 12 and a half years of runway, assuming there are no emergencies, no inflation spikes, and no market crashes along the way, which, let's be honest, is a pretty big assumption to make. But now let's say instead, you build a system that generates $3,500 a month in reliable cash flow. That same $600,000 only needs to cover a $500 monthly deficit, which means it could last decades longer, or potentially never even need to be touched at all. Chapter 13, the truth nobody tells you about retirement. So here's the honest truth that most financial advisors will not spell out for you clearly. You do not actually need millions of dollars sitting in the bank to retire comfortably. You just need your income to reliably cover your burn rate, month after month. Retirement at its core is really about removing the need to work, by designing a system that pays you consistently, even on the days you don't show up. Net worth tells you how wealthy you look to the outside world. Cash flow tells you how free you actually are in real, everyday life.